Welcome new and old friends. My name is 2482, and today, 2 got us 6 glitch in the Matrix stories. These are stories of odd things happening in our world that either make you feel like you're losing your mind, or the world changed in some way while you weren't looking or just when you blinked. Please remember to like, subscribe if you're new, share, and leave me a comment. All these things help YouTube algorithm know that others might enjoy this kind of content as well. And also, don't forget to check downstairs for links to my socials, how to support this channel, and much more. Without further ado, turn off your lights, make sure your doors and windows are locked. Things are about to get spooky. Object disappears, reappears where it shouldn't, by Remote Note 5563. This happened 3 days ago, and I'm still bothered by it. So I used my AirPods on a walk, and upon returning, I put them on the charger in my kitchen. Later, while making dinner, I disconnected my AirPods to plug in my iPad, leaving my AirPods on my kitchen counter. After dinner, I was putting my laundry away in my walk-in closet with my infant, not yet walking, sitting on the floor playing. Note, she never left my side. I noticed the bottom drawer of my filing cabinet was ajar, which I hardly go into, and my AirPod case was sitting in the bottom of the drawer. I rushed to the kitchen where I remember leaving my AirPods, and they're not there. I don't remember going into my bedroom at all until I started putting away my laundry. I racked my brain trying to explain how my AirPods could have made their way into a drawer I suddenly go into without me remembering putting them there. Even more strange as I opened the case to find my left AirPod is missing. I had just had both of them about an hour prior when they were on the charger. How could I suddenly be missing one? I started tearing apart the cabinet, but I couldn't find the AirPod anywhere. I put the baby to bed and tried to find my missing AirPod using Find My, but it wouldn't connect. I tried multiple troubleshooting tips, but I can't connect to the missing AirPod, only the one I have. I gave up my search after an hour and tried to relax with TV before bed. I still can't figure out how my AirPods made into the cabinet from the kitchen, and how did I lose one? I started wondering if the baby got a hold of it. Did she swallow it? But she was sitting right next to me the whole time. She was never in the drawer, and I never saw her with the AirPods. But where could it be? I decided to go to bed. I walk into my room to my side of the bed, and there, in the middle of the floor, in front of my nightstand, is my missing left AirPod. Now, I had not set foot in this part of the room since I gone out for the day for that morning. The baby had not been in that part of the room either. No one was in that part of the bedroom all day, including myself. This part of the room is a good 20 feet away from the filing cabinet in my closet, with a large bed in between. How on earth did my AirPod get there? And sure enough, I could now connect Find My to my missing left AirPod, where before I could not. I tried shaking the AirPod case upside down to see if the AirPods can fall out somehow, but they're held there magnetically. I have no explanation for this. My wife and I were horrified by the news of the teenage girl attacked in our town and wondered what kind of monster could be capable of this. We had given our son the talk when he first started developing fangs, but clearly he needed another lesson about controlling his urges. I'm sorry, sir, but you don't exist. By BangosSkank. I had recently purchased my new house and my old washer and dryer wouldn't fit, plus they sucked and my wife hated using them. So she sent me on a mission to buy a new set. I didn't do my research, and as I'm standing in the Lowe's appliance department coming to grips with what exactly I'm up against, my contractor neighbor walked up behind me. He helped me pick out the exact units I was going to purchase. I bought them, and then life got weird for a few minutes. When I got to my truck with my 2 large boxes, there stood my neighbor waiting for me. I thought he was waiting to help me load them, but he just looked at the boxes and said something like, "That's a gas dryer. We don't have gas." I busted his balls for a couple minutes about helping me pick the wrong units out, and it was a normal interaction as I could have had. I went inside to do the return walk of shame on the units I literally never even left the parking lot with. My neighbor walked to his truck. I'm at the return counter. The girl behind the register asked me my name. I told her and handed her my receipt from 5 minutes prior while explaining the situation. Without even looking up at me, she says again, "Name?" I tell her my name a second time, and she says nothing while typing into the computer. In comes my neighbor to the return desk with a gallon of paint. He waits in line behind me, saying nothing. The girl behind the register looks at me and says, "Name, sir?" I tell her my name for the 3rd time, pointing to the seat on the counter and trying to explain the situation again. She types into the computer some more, and for what was probably a solid minute, says nothing at all. Another girl at the return desk finishes with another customer comes over to help. The new girl says to me, while they both stare into the computer screen, "Name?" A 4th time, I gave them both my name. Without taking their eyes off the screen, the new girl says, and I shit you not, "I'm sorry, sir, but you don't exist." I got sort of lightheaded after she said that because I was already thinking how strange this was. I said back, "I don't exist or I'm not in your system." Without answering me, the second girl says to my neighbor, "Sir, I can help you over here," and moves to the next register as my neighbor walks past me. And without another word to me, returns his paint and walks out the door. Then, almost as if nothing weird had happened, the first girl just says, my name, "Here's your return. You'll have to purchase the new ones and we'll refund you for the ones you mistakenly purchased." Without even going back to the appliances, there behind me stands a guy with the units I needed on a dolly, ready to help me buy and load them into my truck. My neighbor was gone, but when I asked him about it, he didn't think there was anything weird about the whole thing. I, on the other hand, had an existential crisis and only barely managed to hold it together. Edit. I understand it's people's nature to disbelieve me, but it happened exactly like I said. I'm not going to argue in the comments, so take it as you will. If I was going to fabricate a story, it would have had lasers and explosions, not a trip to Lowe's to buy a washer and dryer. I discovered one day that my body can heal its injuries almost instantly when a tile fell off a roof and struck me right in the shoulder. I collapsed screaming as all the pain I would have felt over the months of recovery was concentrated into a single second. Weird Screen Glitch by Anonymoose. Hey guys, this happened to me earlier today. I was visiting a store I visit about 3 to 4 times a week easily. Sometimes even more. As you can imagine, I've come to know most of the staff there pretty well as I'm such a regular. I was standing at the checkout, closest one to the exit, and the same checkout I always go to as they normally only have one, this one, that is manned at one time unless it's super busy. This doesn't typically occur during the times that I normally visit, because I often go in just before closing time as that's what my work schedule allows. Anyway, since COVID, as I'm sure most stores and checkouts in the world have these big plastic screens on the front to help with social distancing, I barely notice them anymore, but 2 days ago I visited the store, same checkout, and one of the staff members I deal with a lot was trying to get some marks off the plastic screen in front of her. We exchanged pleasantries, and I noticed what she was doing, so just casually said something in passing like, "Oh, you poor thing, what is that?" She laughed and said she didn't know, and joked about how she was a neat freak, and it's been bothering her all day, so she was just trying to get it off now that it was almost closing time, and it had slowed down. We had another chuckle, talked a few minutes more, completed our transaction, and I was on my way. I didn't think anything of it again until today when I went to the same checkout out of habit, and something looked a bit different. I didn't even realize right away it was the screen, but something looked like it was missing in the cashier. Another kid I know well was standing in between this checkout and the other one behind him, so I thought maybe some computer or something is broken on this one, and instinctively started heading towards the next checkout for him to assist me there. He waved me over to the first one, which is the one that we always use. We exchanged pleasantries as normal. I looked around trying to figure out what was different, and it finally hit me the screen was no longer there, so I was like, "Oh, didn't there used to be a screen here?" He laughed and said, "Yeah, there was one, but a customer punched it in." I was like, "Oh my god, what? That's insane, why?" He said something like, "Oh, he wasn't too happy about something, I guess." And I said, "Oh wow, I hope everyone's okay. Better he punched in the screen though than the employee, I guess." And he went on to say, "Yes, that's true. I wasn't there when it happened, but oh, I heard about it." We went on to talk a bit more about safety protocol, how people be crazy and stuff, and go on about our transaction, and I'm like, "Well, I hope they fix it soon if it will keep you guys safer." At which point he said, "Yeah, oh no, they just never fixed it, I guess. This happened back somewhere in January. We're still waiting, so." At this point, I was just like, "Wait, what? So, not like it was 2 days ago or something?" He was like, "No, it's been like almost 2 months now." I just sort of froze because I remember our interaction with the other employee 2 days ago while she was trying to clean the screen. And today that checkout legit looks so different without the screen that my instinct was to assume something was broken and go to the next checkout before I even noticed what was missing. So it definitely was the first time I'm seeing it like that in at least 3 to 4 years since COVID happened and they were first installed. And I know it didn't just imagine the whole interaction with the other employee. It was definitely there 2 days ago, like in such a random, mundane thing to draw your attention to start with, and I wouldn't have even noticed it probably if she hadn't been trying to clean it 2 days ago when that conversation took place. I know most of these people on a first-name basis. I know it's such a weird, small thing, but it is bothering me so much, so I thought I'd share it here and see what you guys think. Would you call it a glitch? Am I losing my mind? I don't do any drugs or mess around with any mind-altering substance of any kind. I honestly don't know. It's so freaking weird. "It's just right here, right after the right turn," the hitchhiker said, gesturing towards the road bordered by dense, looming trees. Upon reaching her desired stop, my blood ran cold as I realized she had vanished from my car, and instead I found her remains hidden in the bushes, her head 10 feet away from the body. Elevator Glitch by Palpitation Proper 520. I've had so many glitches over the years. I'm in my 40s now, and ever since I learned my unusual experiences had a name and community, I have followed this sub. This event happened about 2 years ago, and my mom has since passed. Because I don't interact with Reddit much other than reading, I did not have the proper status to post this the day after it happened. But hopefully it will work and still interesting. It haunts me even now. I took my 80-something mom to a doctor's appointment in an outpatient hospital center we never visited before. We walked in and I got a visitor pass from the info desk. The lobby was nice, with a player piano in the lobby, music playing. I put her in a wheelchair to move quicker up the elevator, and we proceeded to the 3rd floor. Once we got to the doctor's office and she checked in, I said I'd move my car from the 15-minute parking in the front of the building to the paid lots and hoped to get back to the doctor's office in time to accompany her to her appointment. This was an oncology doctor, so rather important that my second set of ears heard what the doctor had to say. I walked over to the 4 elevators in the bank, from which we just exited. There was one person waiting and no elevators on the 3rd floor, so I see a stairway across from the elevators and decide that I will run down the steps to save myself time. Also, I routinely go up and down stairs when I can to save time and burn some energy. I head down 1 flight to the 2nd floor and then down again to the 1st, and it occurs to me that I'm not sure whether to go to floor M or G to get to the main lobby. I go down 1 more flight and see a locked door which clearly says no entrance, so I go down 1 more flight thinking that should be my floor. But there was no more doors to exit the stairwell. It just ended in a dead end with walls and no door at all at the bottom of the final step. So I bound back up the steps and exit on the 1st floor, thinking I'll see the 4 elevators in the bank and then just go down until I reach the level on which we entered. I do see the elevators and push the down button, and once inside an elevator, I see both M, which means mellow lobby, the correct place I think I need to be, and G as an option for going down. I push M. The doors open on M, and this is not the floor on which I entered, which was odd. So I go down 1 more and the doors open on G. And this also was not the right floor. I go back up to M. Again, not correct. But this time, I exit to make sure I'm not on a different elevator bank and or to see if anyone is around to ask how to get back to the floor I need. No one is around, and there are just closed, seemingly empty office doors. So I get back on and I proceed to ride up and down from G to M to 1 to 2 to 3, over and over a few times, never getting where I need to be. At this point, I'm anxious that I still need to move my car and get to that appointment. So I get on the 1st floor where I exited the stairway originally and go back up the steps to the 3rd floor. I get out of the stairwell to see the elevators I got off with my mom. I pushed the down arrow and got on, thinking if I did somehow get on a different elevator bank, this will recreate my steps exactly so I can go down to the same exact way I went up. I see the same options for going down, 2, 1, M for mellow lobby, and G. This is the same elevator from what I could tell that I used all along. I push all the buttons. The doors open on the 2nd floor, then the 1st, which obviously are wrong, then opens on M, which is wrong, and then G, which is still wrong. I'm totally anxious now because I can't figure out what is happening or how to get to the exit, and it's just creepy. At this point, I remember that there's a lot of glitches around elevators, and I just think to myself, enough with this already, and go back up to the 3rd floor. I close my eyes, stay on the elevator, and then push M and then G. I tell myself I have to move my car now so that this has to work. The doors open on M, and I see the same lobby and hear the same piano music, and I know I finally made it. I move my car and then run inside. All in all, it was about 15 minutes from when I left the doctor's office originally to find the correct floor. I have no clue what happened and have no logical explanation for how I could ride up and down so many times and not find the correct floor. I was almost relieved my patient flatlined from a minor injury, leaving all her organs salvageable. That was until several people, each who had received an organ donation recently by my hand, started coming in with the same symptoms: agitation, confusion, nausea, and an intense fear of water. My Electrical Outlet Story by mandolinat. Okay, this might get a little long, but I'm trying to include as much detail as possible. 7.5 years ago, I, 42 female, opened a bar/restaurant. There was a little alcove area sort of set back from the main dining room. I decided to hang wallpaper in the alcove, the thick type that looks like tin tiles if you paint it properly. I hung the wallpaper myself, and while I do most of the design and decorative work in my bars, I'm not incredibly good or exacting at some of the tasks, even though the end product is usually fine. The alcove, maybe 10 feet by 8 feet, had 3 walls. Instead of a 4th wall, it just opened up into the dining room, and had 2 electrical outlets, one on the left wall and one on the right, if you were standing just inside the area with your back to the main dining room. I papered the left wall first. I kind of haphazardly held a strip of wallpaper up to the section with the outlet and made a vague outline to where they cut the wallpaper so the outlet would be accessible through it. Since I am like I am, it didn't line up properly, almost, and I had to redo the strip, being more careful that time. I worked my way around the walls clockwise, and about an hour later I got to the second outlet. I was just tired, so I made myself measure twice, cut once, so the second outlet would properly line up the first time. While I was meticulously measuring, my buddy John, 42 male, came over to the space to check on my progress. He's way better at home improvement stuff than me, and as soon as he walked into the future restaurant, he laughed because he knew I had messed up on the first outlet. I admitted I had been impatient, messed up, and was trying to get the second outlet to work right the first time. Fast forward 4.5-ish years. COVID shutdown was in effect, and John was helping me work the to-go food pickup window. We'd converted to-go only like a lot of restaurants. The unused dining room became a warehouse/storage space of sorts. We used it for dry food prep and for staging pickup orders. One day I was making some new menus and John was working the pickup window. I was trying to plug the laminator into the leftmost alcove outlet, but since the dining room was full of dry good boxes and supply tables, there wasn't anywhere to sit the laminator where its relatively short cord would comfortably reach the left outlet. John saw me looking for a way to arrange the stuff and he said, "Just plug it into the right outlet. The good wallpaper one?" We laughed because even though I worked so hard on the second outlet, I ended up just shoving a couch against it, and it had not been used since the restaurant opened. So I moved the couch away from the wall just a bit, and you guessed it. No outlet, no cut in the wallpaper, no patch, nothing. I called John over and we just sort of stared at the space where we knew the outlet was. Nothing we came up with satisfied the confusion. I even called my perfectionist amateur handyman dad and asked him if he remembered an outlet there, and of course he did, because I had told him about my attempts to eyeball the first one, and he jokingly reminded me he raised me better than that. 3 years later, and we all still mention it from time to time. Any ideas? A psychic told my wife that she would miscarry our child, but we were delighted when she had an incident-free pregnancy. It wasn't until 6 years later that we learned what the psychic meant when my wife picked up our daughter so that she could get a better view of the Grand Canyon. Old Glitch from Vienna by RJ94930. This happened a while back, sometime during the summer of 2021. I always thought this event was pretty weird, but only skimming through the subreddit a bit more made me realize how much of a glitch it was. So at the time of this event, I was living in Vienna in a student dormitory. It was getting time for me to renew a prescription for my eyeglasses, so I looked around for a place to do that. Turns out there was one optical store just around the corner from me. I made an appointment and went for my eye exam. I showed up, said hello. The guy at the front desk seemed very confused that I would be there even though we had talked on the phone about me coming, and that was only the day before. Whatever, I thought. The actual exam took place in a back room, and the doctor examining me was this short, stocky gentleman with a distinct Farsian accent. I know because I've had a lot of Persian friends since childhood. I pick up on the sound intuitively at this point. Everything goes well. I got my prescription, or I don't. Only at the very end do I realize that the doctor never gave me the paper slip with my numbers on them. I tried noting them down from memory since he clearly showed me everything on the computer monitor, but I wanted to make sure, so I walked into the place the next morning and asked for a copy. I walk in, and this time it's a much older, taller guy at the front desk who answers me. I gave him my name and tell him what happened, and he types away at his computer for maybe a solid minute. I thought, well, that's a bit long considering I didn't ask him to do anything special, but whatever. Then he calls someone else over from the back. They whisper to each other, they stare at the monitor for another minute. I almost felt like they were suspecting me of something by the way they were acting about it all. Sir, it seems like you haven't been here before. Excuse me? You have not been a customer of ours according to our database. Obviously there must be a mistake. Just let me talk to the doctor who examined me yesterday. He will know what I need. I was very confused at this point, but oh well, maybe the new old guy at the front desk had simply messed up. There's no way the doctor wouldn't recognize me. I was even wearing the same colored shirt as the day before. The old guy by the entrance was so kind and strangely official in asking all the store's ODs to come in and line up for me for a second. There weren't that many, of course. It was a small store, maybe 5 people. And my guy, the short, bronze-skinned guy with a Phoenician accent, was so obviously not among them. It was all tall, young-looking white Austrian doctors with Vietnamese accents. I was really confused and asked the guy from the front desk what's going on, if the doctor I had seen had just spontaneously decided to take the day off. He typed away for a moment and then bluntly told me, no. I have no idea if that was a no, he didn't, or no, he doesn't exist. I was feeling totally weirded out by this interaction, so I just jumped ahead and asked if I could resolve this confusion by just redoing my eye exam here. With a very fake smile, he leaned over to me and said, "My apologies, but at the moment we are fully booked and we can't take on new appointments for such things. I suggest you try one of our other locations." Now, I know that this was not true because the younger guy I had been talking to on the phone with told me and showed me via their website that appointments for eye exams there are only a courtesy thing. They have a company policy that they're always free, and there's always like 50 time slots available for each day, so they basically never fill up. On the day that I came, I was free to choose any time, I think from 10:15 a.m. to 3:30 p.m. or something like that. So that they would be suddenly fully booked is a bit silly. I felt like telling that to this guy, but I was in the mood for an argument. I could tell they were about to shoo me out for reasons I couldn't grasp, so I left. I still think about this from time to time, and it keeps feeling weirder every time. I know it's not nearly as out there as some of the experiences others have shared here, but it's mine, and I thought it's still pretty interesting. After the crazy homeless guy bit me on my last patrol, I got all the necessary injections as a precaution, but I still am experiencing all these weird symptoms that I can't explain. Like, why does sunlight burn so much? And why do I feel so sick every time I go to church? And with that, our time together is coming to an end. As always, thank you to everyone who let me tell their stories. I hope you all stay safe and away from any more glitches. And thank you to the listeners as well. Without the story, I have nothing to read. And without the listeners, I have no one to read to. And listeners, if you have a story you'd like me to read, if you go down below, you'll find an email and also a link on where to send those. Please do remember to hit that like button and make sure it feels it. If you're new, please subscribe so you won't miss any of my uploads, which is every Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard. If you know anyone who might enjoy these stories, please share them with them. I would also love a comment. Tell me what stories you'd like to hear more of, or if there's something I haven't touched on, or even which one of these stories you like the best. If you'd like to help this channel, for $1 a month you get early access, and you get to help me make this content in a way. I have Patreon and YouTube memberships. I also have PayPal and Buy Me a Coffee if you'd like to do a one-time tip as well. Thank you always for listening to me ramble. Sleep tight and don't let 42 bite.